This is John Sewell, New Year's Eve 2020. Really honored to have my friend Sven Rieger on the show, all the way from Germany. Sven, thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. It's going to be a pleasure talking with you, Sean.
Oh, thank you. I'm super excited. A little background about Sven. He is very involved in StrongFirst. He is StrongFirst Germany. If you follow his handle on Instagram, which I suggest to you, he is SFG, SFGII, SFB, SFL, StrongFirst team leader as of May 2020. All around a strong, positive, kind person. And we're going to have a fun discussion, especially the end of 2020. I think we could all use some inspiring strength and encouragement. So nobody better than having Sven on the show. So, all right, Sven, let's get into it. What got you involved in health and fitness in the first place?
Well, I got introduced to training and kettlebell training in general, actually just through accident by friends of mine. Mm-hmm. So at the beginning, I just thought it's going to be a nice hobby for a few months. And here I am, probably almost 15 years later, still training.
Yes.
And it actually turned into a passion of mine, and funny enough, also into a profession, which is something at that point I just would not ever have considered. Mm-hmm. So back at that time, my actual plan was to become a teacher, a school teacher.
Okay.
So now I'm a teacher of strength, if you will. So somehow it still turned out that way, but it's interesting how it all came about, to be honest.
I totally understand. Like you, I never knew I would go into the profession, but I like teaching like you do. Mm-hmm. And really grateful that we get to do this now. It's such a big capacity.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Especially because I used to be so shy.
Mm-hmm.
If you would have told me with 20, 22, that I'd be the one standing in front of a group teaching, I would have never believed you. Never. That was just something that completely was out of my mind. And I didn't thought it possible, to be honest, because I saw teachers and role models, how they did it. And I thought, never would I be able to have such an impression on people like they had on me. Mm-hmm. So it's funny that slowly but steadily it starts to turning out that way.
It is. I think it helps you and people like you and myself come from a more honest and compassionate place. Like you, very shy.
Exactly.
I mean, I dropped out of college because I didn't want to do speeches. Like I have a huge phobia of being in front of crowds. But now we kind of live for it, right? Like still get nervous, but it's exciting to present and to teach.
And it's crazy because in your case as well, you would not get the impression by the way you moderate the podcast and interviews. It's remarkable.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. A lot of hard work like you're doing, It's slow and steady, gradual pace. You don't get there by quickness.
It's step by step. And sometimes I think Dan John said that once, you have to be brave enough to take the small steps.
Yeah. Oh, I like that.
Because it's just the ones that get you ahead over time. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you think, well, it won't make a big difference. Well, not in that moment, but consecutively done over months, years. I mean, that's what will get you the results in anything, basically.
You're right. And I'm glad to say in anything, not just in conditioning and fitness, right? But in learning any skill set, a hobby, relationships, they all take consistent effort. And you might take a step forward, it might take 2 steps back, but you're still, if you can, I like this term, fail forward, right? Because a lot of failures, I'm not going to lie to anybody here. I fail probably every day, several times a day. But if you can learn from those experiences and just put your bootstraps up and just go after it again, you'll be successful, more appreciative too.
And you'll get the experience.
Yeah, you can't.
Because if you're afraid to fail, that is what's going to hold you back. I mean, there is, you probably heard of Jordan Peterson, right?
Yes.
So he's going to get out a new book in March, another 12 Rules for Life. And the first chapter there is, I think, going to be about how you need to be a fool first before you can move forward, basically, in everything you do.
I dig that. That's good.
And it's just that it needs courage, sure, because you start in something you don't know anything about, basically. But you have to start doing to get the experience, which means you will fail in the beginning. And more in the beginning than later, but you still will fail. It's not going to stop. I mean, at least not in my experience so far.
No.
But it's what will give you the perspective.
That's a good word.
So when you start teaching new people, you know how they feel. That is what will give you that compassion as a teacher, I think.
Yes, that's good advice. And if somebody here is a fitness professional or teacher in that matter, yeah, having that compassion for your student, your client, or from whoever you're getting to do service for, really will go a long ways, as opposed to just barking at them.
Exactly.
I don't work with anybody who does better with a stick than the carrot and the honey over that too.
I think Fabio Zonin explained that beautifully when he was talking about himself. That he said that he never was the most gifted athlete, never the strongest, but he's pretty strong. So I mean, if you look at what he's doing, still, it's amazing. But he said what gave him the edge as a trainer was that he knew how it is to figure things out, because you're not that natural talent, so you have to work, you have to research, you have to figure things out yourself. Someone who never had to struggle with something, they might be good as an athlete, but that won't make them a good teacher.
Yeah.
And that is always the danger, I think, when you're good at something, you don't understand how hard it might be for someone else, which is so important when you teach someone things like, I mean, let's take the get up, for example. When you show someone a get up the first time, they look at you and think, what, are you crazy?
Yeah. Why would
How am I going to do that?
Yeah.
And then with the weight, no way. But then with the experience you got up until that point, probably you're able to take away the fear and introduce them step by step. And I mean, yeah, tell them how you felt the first time doing that thing. It helps to smooth the edges for them, basically.
Yeah.
Away the fear factor.
I like that a lot. And you've been a really big fan of the show for a lot of reasons. And the people we get to talk to, it blows my mind this year, especially. And like he's mentioned, Dan John, he was on, he had great nuggets. And back to your not being the best about anything, one of our favorite people and the former CEO for StrongFirst, Eric Frohardt, retired Navy SEAL.
I just listened to a podcast with him yesterday.
Was it Brad Kern's one?
Exactly.
Oh yeah,
because of you posted about that one, and I thought I need to listen to that because Eric's just funny enough. I met him at my SFGII.
Really?
He was still CEO at that time.
Yeah.
And he came over to Europe. I did my level 1 in Hungary with Peter Lakatos.
Oh, cool. Yeah, yeah.
And Eric was there just observing how everything went along. And at that time, I had no idea who he was.
Oh, yeah. He's good about being humble.
Afterwards, I found out, and it was like,
yeah.
You would not believe, just meeting the guy, what he's accomplished so far. I mean, he's just so down to earth, approachable, kind. It's crazy. I'm
glad you got that feeling for him too. For people who don't know who he is, I'll give a brief summary. The Brad Kearns, which is the B-Rad podcast now, as of like yesterday.
Oh yeah, he renamed it, right?
Yeah, which I think is deserving. His name's Brad B-Rad. Why not? You know? And he's an entertaining, enthusiastic, a fan of conditioning and training and fitness, much in the same regard that Sven and I are. And he had Eric on, and I learned more about Eric in that episode than I knew prior. And I've known Eric for 5 or 6 years. And like you, I didn't know who he was. I blindly emailed Eric Frohardt at his Mac email address because my friend that I trained, her husband was best friends with Eric. And she's like, you love the outdoors, the backcountry skiing, and kettlebells. You would like my friend Eric. Why don't you guys get a bromance going and get some coffee, meet him for coffee? And everybody's wearing like all suits and stuff in this business center here in Denver. And I'm wearing like Patagonia puffy and like a beanie, and I have a beard. And the only person hairier than me and had more gear on was Eric. We sat down and we riffed about, his time in the Navy SEALs and gear. And he's like, oh yeah, and I run StrongFirst. I was like, what am I doing? How do I get to the table with this person? And so we became friends after that and started becoming hiking buddies. And he's just—
That sounds amazing.
Yeah. So we have an Engearment podcast with Eric on there as well. Definitely worth checking out. But
oh yeah, it's an amazing episode.
Thank you. Yeah, he's just a wealth of information and motivation too. And he has those great nuggets like Dan John, everybody has, and Brett Jones, where they just say something so simple and you're like, that's effective, that's profound, I can apply that right now. And like you said, he wasn't the best at anything, but he got through buds in one try. He did several tours. He was successful because he put in the hard work and just step after step. He wasn't the best or the fastest or the quickest. He just got the job done.
That's the point, I think, because the over specialization a lot of people strive sometimes for, I think it might be a little bit short-sighted on the long term. I mean, sometimes it's probably great, or it seems like a great idea to focus so narrowly on something, but you also have to consider what it might take away from you in other areas.
That's good.
That's also one of the things I love about Dan John is that the compass he has. And he says basically, no matter which direction you go, it's the play. I don't remember all the four directions, but basically it should enrich your whole life. So the circle should grow and still stay a circle, basically, if that makes sense, so that you don't have an unformally shape, or how you might call it.
Yes.
So if one thing gets too specialized and takes away from the rest of your life, I mean, if you're something like a Olympic sprinter, then that's definitely something that will happen, because to perform on such a high level, there is just no other way around, I think. But for 99% of the people,
that's a really good way of putting it.
Not the best approach.
Yeah. I want to reach out to Dan and get an episode going here in February. And I'll bring up that because I want to learn more about that as well. Every time Dan, when he talks, you're just like, just get the pad of paper and start taking notes, right?
Yeah, it's crazy.
You're really good about capturing the essence from other people's podcasts and sharing it. And I really enjoyed that you did that with the Brett Jones episode, because that was one of my favorite ones ever. And I was just like starstruck the whole time. And you were able to grab some really good nuggets in there and share them a lot online. And so I was like, oh yes, he did say that. That was super effective. So
sometimes I see an episode and I'm like, okay, it's under an hour. I can listen to that on my way to work. And then I start taking notes. And the episode that takes probably 50 minutes to listen to, I'm not sure. Sometimes I'm sitting there for over an hour with the taking notes. So it probably sometimes doubles the time.
Oh, I appreciate that. That's awesome. That is
because it puts things into. I think I have over 600 notes on my iPhone there.
Wow. Oh my!
With 1/3 of them, or no, probably half of them being podcast notes. It's.
I love it. Oh my goodness. Well, what are some other podcasts you enjoy?
Oh, there was an older one, but it's not getting updated anymore. It was a Super Strength show.
Okay, don't know that one yet.
I'm not sure if you still find the episodes, but he had so amazing. Brooks Kubik, for example, was there talking about the old-time strongman. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. Then, oh gosh, let me think. Now I'm blinking on that. Can I look up? Wait, give me a second. Please. I can give you a few, because there's just so many I started to listen to.
I know Alex the Hebrew Hammer does a good job with the Old Man Strong.
Oh, exactly. He has a great one as well, the Hammercast.
Hammercast, yep, he's a hoot.
I like actually Jocko's podcast.
Oh yeah, yeah,
that's a great one. But especially in regards to training, I think FMS did a great job with their podcast.
Yeah, it's actually really good. Very entertaining too.
Gray and Lee together, that is just a combination.
Oh, it's fun. Yeah.
Oh, funny enough, I did my FMS in 2011.
Oh, this is a good segue to find out, okay, what your path was to all your credentials.
Oh, yeah.
So before we push record, Sven did a great job explaining. So I'll have the pitch right here. So what was your introduction to kettlebells and fitness in that matter?
So basically, just all of my friends at that time started training. That was around, like I said, probably 15 years ago. And I thought, let's just give it a try and see how long you will stick with it. I thought it would be a few months tops. And well, it didn't.
Yeah.
And then in 2011, in 2010, actually, it was just by accident that a friend of mine introduced me to kettlebells. And I still cannot tell you till this day what exactly it was that hooked me. But I had that thing in my hand and I knew that was actually what I was looking for so long.
That's great.
And we started training, a friend of mine, together down in the basement at my parents' place with 16 kilo kettlebell, and Pavel's entered the kettlebell back at that time. And it was, since then, it ever was a part of my training. When StrongFirst got founded, and the release of Simple and Sinister, so Pavel's first book under StrongFirst, that was actually the reason I got more involved into the whole community, basically. And it took another 3 years, though, for me to do my very first certification with StrongFirst. That was in 2016 in Hungary with Peter, like I told you, where I met Eric. And but to go back in time, a friend of mine actually, who I did my very first kettlebell workshop with him. But at that time, we basically didn't know each other. Now he's my best friend. So that turned out to be a half year of just knowing each other. It was basically with you and Eric, just sitting there, and everything clicks. It's crazy sometimes.
Yes, beautiful.
But he introduced me to the functional movement systems.
Okay.
And in 2011, they would have had the first certification in Germany, which was fully booked completely in just a few weeks, I think. And through him, I also got very involved in martial arts.
Okay.
And he's a full instructor under Guru Dan Inosanto. So Guru Dan was Bruce Lee's best friend and best student. And he's still running a martial arts school in Los Angeles.
Really?
And he took me with him that year. So that was also quite an interesting time. But what also is that in 2011, there was another FMS certification in Los Angeles at that time. So we did the FMS there because we couldn't get a spot at the one in Germany.
Wow.
The crazy thing was that one was run by Gray and Lee in person.
Oh my, there you go.
It's crazy. I still have the picture of them with us. I mean, it's 9 years.
Yeah.
Crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's Gray Cook. He's me talking about right there. Co-founder of FMS, and
together with me.
Yeah. Wow.
Also a wealth of knowledge. It's crazy. Every time you listen to him, you pick something up.
Oh yeah.
It's things you thought you knew, but the way he phrases them, the way he puts it into perspective, sometimes it's just different, I'd say. It's hard to describe because it's things you think you know, but the way he expresses them makes you think about them in a different way. And then, you get a few new connections. It's also with the movement book. I don't know if you read it.
Yeah.
But every time I read it, it's just you pick up things you didn't see before, basically, which is interesting.
That's good perspective. I like that. Embarrassingly, what I would do, I camp a lot by myself and my dogs, and I'll download either from OPT books or whatever, from Gray Cook or FMS, download or Brett June stuff and download it, and then watch it while I'm camping, and just study it. And it, like you said, different times it hits you different ways, and you learn things in different pattern, and you're like, oh, that's how you do that.
That was the same with me a few weeks ago. I started doing a program by Pavel Macek. It's his test program for the advanced program minimum. So the program minimum is basically Simple and Sinister, so swings and get-ups. And the advanced program minimum, I think, goes back to Bob Hoffman from York Barbell.
Oh, wow.
So his idea was that you basically need a quick lift and the slow grind to get the best results, which for him were at that time the barbell snatch and the barbell bent press.
Oh, wow. Definitely a grind.
And Pavel adapted it to the kettlebell, basically. So it's the kettlebell snatch and the kettlebell bent press, but he says also that there will be a point where you have to transition from the kettlebell to the barbell because it just gets unhandy for the bent press, which is funny to think, because if you remember the barbell having in one hand, it's not very handy as well.
I'm going to try and find some links to you doing this with the barbell, so people get reference to this. It's beyond my skill set by far, and so whenever I see you do them, like, wow, I have a long ways to go. It's inspiring.
To be honest, it just needs a little bit of introduction time because the center of mass is different. But once you figure out how to align yourself under the weight, it's actually it might become easier than the kettlebell, I think, because it's a different way how you press into the weight and away from it.
Okay,
So
that's
interesting.
Yeah.
So I was doing the kettlebell snatch. That's actually what I wanted to talk about. And I progressed really, really good, in my opinion, up to the 44 kilo bell now.
Snatching to 44?
Snatching. And I'm not sure if you know Tim Ammond. He's a senior instructor from StrongFirst in Australia.
Yes, it sounds familiar.
And he's a monster in the snatch. He's crazy. If you look at his stuff, it's just, he swings the 88 like other people, the 48. It's crazy.
Yeah. Strong.
And I think one of the strongest snatches with the 44 I ever saw. And he got in contact with me. He was like, yeah, I might help you out with the snatch if you want to. And I'm like, sure. Yeah. I mean, someone like him offering me help, who would I be to not take that? And he wanted me to send him a few videos from different angles. And he was like, you know what? There's some issues here. Let's go back to the swing. And at first I was like, oh, seriously, do I want to do that? Yeah. It's always hard when you have to take a step back. It's always hard.
Yeah, it's very humbling.
But he said that basically I'm not generating enough power. I'm compensating through my upper body, through my back. He basically said I'm too strong for my technique.
Yeah.
And he was absolutely right, because when I looked at the videos, I was like, okay, this is actually embarrassing. Seeing me snatching like that, I thought, no way. And he made me go back to the swing. So for the last probably 6 or 8 weeks now, I'm just doing 2-arm swings. And I reread, there's the topic again, The Quick and the Dead.
Oh, yeah. Great book.
And there is, towards the end, that section where Pavel talks about power exercises, and that a standard progression just won't work for them, because you already have the weight where your power production is maximized. You're already giving each rep 100%. So increasing the weight would not work because your power would drop. Mm-hmm. Doing more reps would also have probably more disadvantage effects than anything else. So he was like, the progression here, or the way you progress or structure your training, is just different. You stay with the weight way longer. And that's where I realized, my mistake. Mm-hmm. I was progressing way too fast. I was just focused on the number, because the 44 snatch just sounded so awesome.
That sounded amazing.
Yeah. And the other thing was that I lost focus, or lost sight of what I had the exercise in my training program for. It was for power. It's not the weight, basically. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not a strength exercise like the deadlift. Mm-mm. And that is, I think, one of the big issues. If you start losing sight of what you're doing the exercise for, you will run into trouble one way or the other.
That is very true. I thank you for explaining that. And I'm guilty of this too. When I was going for my SFG, I got cocky, got ahead of myself, and I'm like, I can snatch 24, no problem. And I'd taken a break off to go focus on split boarding, and I partially tore my bicep. Yeah. No way. Yeah. So like I was just doing too much, too fast, like you said. And my range of motion is a little bit, I can hyperextend my right arm, which doesn't do any favors under load. So yeah, slow and steady, back to the slow and steady, just do the right thing.
Exactly.
But good for you for being open for I'll say critique, but for teaching opportunity, right? And you're a team.
Exactly.
Yeah, we can always learn and always improve and always stay hungry for knowledge.
I mean, going back to Guru Dan Inosanto, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not sure when he did that. He's over 80 now.
Wow.
And he's basically a living legend in regards to martial arts. But still, he went back a few years ago and went to the Machados. They're one of the big Brazilian jiu-jitsu families.
Okay.
And basically went to them and said, hey, give me a white belt. I want to learn your system.
Wow, right back to the beginning.
So here's a living legend in martial arts, but he's humble enough to start as a white belt again.
Wow.
And that is just so amazing. I mean, if you're interested in that, you should have Mark Cheng on.
Yeah.
He became StrongFirst master instructor actually this year, and he treats Guru Dan every now and then, and he's training at the Inosanto Academy as well. He was an assistant at the FMS I did in LA back in 2011. That's where I met him actually, through the martial arts.
A beautiful small world. I love it.
It's interesting, and he actually got to know Pavel Tsatsouline through Guru Dan.
Well, that's a unique path.
It's interesting. It's so interesting. It's all. Did you do the Indian Club course by Brad?
The one a few weeks ago.
He has one on the FMS side.
I
think it's free for pro members, but I think you can get it for around $20 or so.
Oh, with Brett Jones?
Yeah, Brad teaches it.
Okay, I have it queued up. I'm going through the ground force method, and I'm going to do that one.
Yeah, there's just so much.
There's so much this year, especially. I think I get more courses this year because why not?
Why exactly? I mean, when you have the opportunity,
why not? Yeah, like most recently, you went through this before I did, much before. Had the strong.
Yep. Yeah.
I had not planned on doing that. I actually was going to, with our friend Matthew Flaherty in New York City, I was going to take the Indian Club course, and then on that Friday night, I get a beautiful email from Pavel Tutzling. Would you be my guest at the Plant Strong? I was like, I'm dropping everything. Wow. Yep. So, yeah, I mean, my time is your time, sir. Yes, I'm there.
It's just so.
Yeah.
It's funny because Doc Chang said something similar about Gray Cook.
Yeah.
He says, when Gray asks if you have time, you have time.
You make new time. Yes.
You just make the time available. It's so crazy. But what I was getting into was when you look at the introduction of the Indian Club course, Gray actually talks about where the whole system sometimes comes from. And actually he spent some time with Guru Dan about that.
Wow.
So it's all sometimes interconnected. It's so interesting.
Oh, that's fascinating. Wait, thank you for drawing the picture. It's not as separate as it looks. It all, is cool. And you probably learned this when you went to the Strong Endurance. The language that gets shared in the knowledge, is very similar. Working in the same fields, and the end goal is very similar to teach people, help them.
Yeah. I mean, that is the whole thing. You have to start somewhere because you will pick it up along the way. But it's also, the same was true for me in martial arts back at that time. So you start, everything's new, and you just sometimes are not able to connect the dots. But the more you do, the more you get a complete picture of everything. And the more you see how things actually play into each other and play off each other. It's fantastic. I mean,
it really is. And to your credit, this is something I noticed about you and your character. You're really good about connecting the dots, and then also giving credit where credit's due. And that's a beautiful thing. And Pavel's great at this, as well as Brett, very humble, and just putting the connections out there, putting the good mojo, the love out there. It comes back in ways you'll never can anticipate, in beautiful ways. And you're a great example of this, all the connections you've made over the last 11 years or so. It's cool to hear. Really cool.
Yeah, but that's something that I got taught by basically all of my teachers from the very beginning. So Guru Dan was very big about that when he taught his classes. And then also when I got to know Pavel Macek, he was always like, give credit where credit's due. And I think that's important.
Yeah. In anything in life. And also for the person who receives that little shout out, it might be that thing that boosts them that day too. And I mean, I can't tell how many times I'm in a funk. I'll be totally honest. This year has been kind of funky, but every once in a while I get something from you or from other colleague or a friend. I'm like, all right, today's a great day.
I exactly know what you mean. I know what you mean.
Those little boosts go on ways.
Sometimes you also don't know how long that stuff is actually around.
Right.
I mean, you got taught it by, let's say, Brett or Fabio, but you didn't know how they got involved with it or who taught them. It's sometimes that is so beautiful with when Brooks Kubik from Dinosaur Training, that's the book he got famous for, when he talks about the old time strongman and he creates those lines back in time. And it gives you that feeling of just being connected to something so much bigger. It's an interesting feeling sometimes.
I would agree.
When you take the barbell or the kettlebell to train and just think a moment for how long this has been going on, the people striving to get stronger, it's probably something that is so deeply in us. And it's to get the lineage sometimes puts in perspective for you how big that tradition, how big that family is.
Yeah, that's well put. I really enjoy that. And I don't know about you, but this last year or so, as far as business with restrictions and things closing. I've been doing this about the same amount of time as you have, probably 15 years professionally, and it was unique to see how the students changed. And so now I'm really fortunate that people I get to work with actually, they want to learn more about the kettlebells, about the Indian clubs, about the mace, about body weight conditioning, because they understand that it can improve their quality of life. And this, for them, it's not about in the gym as much as it is on the mountains. I'm here in Colorado, and people I get to work with and serve, they're skiers, hikers, bow hunters, campers, family men and women, grandparents, and they just want to move well. And, obviously with FMS and the good patterns, go through the patterns and make sure they're good, then load them. And it's great. They get very curious. They're like, tell me more about Pavel. Tell me more about Brett Jones. And then they listen to the podcast, and then they get interested in the history and the culture behind it. And it builds greater depth than a person who I might have worked with 10 years ago, who just wants to come in for a workout and has no interest in the history of health, wellness, or strength. They just want to break a sweat and, get some stress relief, which I can respect. But fortunately, I don't work with those people as much anymore.
And you need sometimes those sessions where you just get in, break a sweat, and you're done for the day. But it's not what's going to keep you in training.
No. And then that's true. Hopefully the professionals out there listen to this, and I don't like putting down anything, but flashy workouts won't serve your people or yourself long-term the way you think it might.
Yeah, that's the point. And I'm not sure if it's putting people down. It's just, I think when you call yourself a professional, then you did your work. You dug into the material. And when you do that, just a little more than reading one book, you will start to see a connection, a thread back in time. And you will see that there is more to it than it looks like at the beginning. I mean, yeah, training is good, but like you said, it's not training itself necessarily. It's what you will get out of training.
Yes, the why. Why is it you want to do
exactly?
Yeah, well, I dig your approach, and this will resonate with a lot of people out there for sure. Yeah. Okay, so what was your why? So you started with a 16 kilo and a 4 kilo kettlebell, right? The 4 kilo.
Oh, that's a funny story. We didn't know what we were getting into at that time, and we thought you need lighter weights to practice technique, so let's get a 4 kilo kettlebell as well. So the thing arrived, and my friend looked at it and basically said, "Okay, that looks pretty much useless."
Yes.
Which it was. We never used it till this day. It's just catching dust.
I can empathize. I ordered a 5 pound and a 10 pound. So it was a 2 kilo and a 4. Yeah, it was. They're in the closet, holding books up right now.
At least there is some thing you can do with them. So
and they're vinyl coated. They'll last forever. But yeah, that's how we learn, right? It's Jeff on the fire.
Yeah. I mean, you had Jeff Stokol on, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I mean, he started with some kettlebell aerobics DVD, and look where he's now. It's the old saying of it doesn't matter where you start,
as long as you start.
Just you have to start somewhere. That's the point.
It is, and I don't want to. I want to keep going on the path of your history.
Oh yeah, sure.
But one thing I do notice when people approach for consultations and stuff is the action piece. They'll overanalyze. They'll have whiteboards and they'll have spreadsheets and pivot tables. And I'm like, why don't we just have some coffee and just go do this thing and see if it works? If it works, we're going to double down. If it doesn't work, we scrap it and take some notes. Just action. That's my little tidbit for today. Just action.
Yeah, but that's the most important part. That's one of the key things I took from Jordan Peterson, because he says, the world is a place of action. If you don't act, well, what can you expect? You can't expect any results from work you didn't do. And you have to, that's what we said earlier, you have to start somewhere and start collecting experience. And I mean, failure is part of that process, but you can't let that stop you.
That's great.
Because there is no standing still. It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
If you're not moving forward, you're moving backward.
Ooh,
Sometimes it sounds cheesy, but that's what I found to be true. And that's where the tiny steps sometimes just are so important, so valuable, because even if it doesn't look like much, you did not make a step back that day.
I like that.
That incremental process of improvement. But if it's just 1%, it doesn't matter.
It's 1% more.
Yeah.
Still moving forward.
And those 1% will accumulate together, and you never know where they will take you.
Yeah. No, that's great. Yeah. The term I like to regurgitate all the time is paralysis by analysis.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or what Pavel always says is understaying is a delaying tactic. That is also great.
I like that. I have to put that in the notes too. I already have a page of notes. This is going to be great.
Awesome.
I need to set it up. This is good. Okay. So you do the FMS first in LA.
Exactly.
And then you're getting curious. You're doing Pavel's books. StrongFirst becomes a thing in 13, I believe. And then you study materials, and then you go in Hungary with Eric.
In Hungary. Yeah.
Get the SFG, and then you also have accomplished SFG2.
Yeah, that was actually 2 years later. So I did the SFL before that.
Oh, the lifter. Yes.
Yeah, because so I signed up for the SFG1 probably at the end of 2015, just to get myself a commitment, and started training for that. And then a Plan Strong event went online. And at that time, I had no idea what Plan Strong was about. It was just a special event with Pavel Zonin in Europe. So, well, you make time for that.
Yes.
That was in May of 2016. And that's where I met Fabio.
Fun.
And also one of the probably key points in the whole development, because he turned on to be one of my best friends at that point. It's just interesting how things sometimes play along. Yeah. We've been to metal concerts together in Germany, in Italy. It's
oh, that's great.
It's so awesome, I can tell you. It's just, that is also one of the things. What struck me at Plan Strong was you met people for the first time, and there's that instant connection. And that happened at every single StrongFirst event.
I would agree with you completely. I was doing the SFG second time around, and Brett Jones was the master one, and we had a little circle, a little powwow, and it was, why are you here, and what is StrongFirst to you? And again, I don't like speaking in public, so it gets to me, I'm like nervous and shaking, and I said something to the effect of, to me, StrongFirst is family, and that left it at that.
That's a perfect answer.
Yeah, it's true, because a little bit of, I've been through some stuff while I was going through SFG1. My sister was battling brain cancer. And, on Saturday night, everybody goes out for dinner and some beers. And I went to go with her, be by her side, because she was blind at the time, and read to her at hospice. And I let Eric know, hey, I'm sorry I didn't make the dinner, but here, this is why I didn't come. And he was like, wow, amazing. So before she passed, a lot of my friends now from StrongFirst stepped up and reached out in a lot of ways. And so it truly was like family. It was beautiful, like having the support of men and women that I look up to and admire and respect. And now I get to call friends like you do with Fabio and go to metal concerts, or go camping, or get a beer or five. It's great.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a beautiful, beautiful small world. And it really is a family. Everybody I've met through StrongFirst, they've been amazing people.
I mean, I think I still have a standing invitation going to South Korea back from the Plan Strong event.
Yeah.
With Joey Yang. I met him back then, and we never met since in person, but we're still in contact, and it's
cool.
It's the beauty about the whole thing. Like you said, it's the family aspect.
And to give more credit to StrongFirst and the colleagues we have, I have gone through a lot of courses, as have you, I'm sure, and none of them have that culture and depth.
Yeah.
And there's some great courses. I've learned a lot, not discounting the education I've received, but the education and culture and connection kind of seems to stop on Sunday afternoon. You go home and you do your work.
Going back to Fabio, that is one thing he said at another podcast where he was talking about the certifications. He was like, sure, people will sign up for the content or whatever, but they will stay because of that feeling of family, of belonging to something bigger. And I think when you went through the SFG1, that what is the SFG speech on day 3? That is just he did that in Spain 2 years ago. I assisted at that level 1, and it was just I got goosebumps the whole speech over. It was just crazy. But you also saw the people, the attendees, their eyes got wide and they were looking, and because they realized how much more there is to the whole thing. I mean, it's that strength has a greater purpose. And once you get an idea of how this could look, I think this is what will open your eyes to how much more there is to training, actually.
Yeah. Well said. Very well said. Yeah. And it is. And I think that the thing you learn from the StrongFirst events isn't just also like how to really effectively coach and teach and find these little minutiae to tweak to make things more effective, but also like why people do things, why they're there in front of you in the first place. It's very effective. Well, speaking of, who taught the SFL for you? Was it?
Oh, that was Doc Hartle.
Oh, Doc Hartle.
That was. I absolutely wanted to do my SFL with him.
Yes.
And since Fabio basically laid out my way, because at the Plant Strong, I asked him, so I signed up for SFG1. What would he recommend me to follow up that with? And he looked like me like, given your build, SFL.
Yeah.
So it was like, okay, let's go. And Doc came over in 2017 to England.
Oh, cool.
To teach the SFL there. And that was an amazing experience because he's just such a great guy. His sense of humor is so...
He's very humorous.
It's amazing. Dry humor, you have to... Sometimes it was like, okay, is that a joke or is he serious? But it's so great. Also the way, I mean, with his experience as a powerlifter and chiropractor, the way he made sense of of why you did certain things the way they were being taught, it opened your eyes to, well, how to say, to question the sometimes standard approach of teaching certain barbell lifts.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, yeah, I love his approaches, like you said. His dry sense of humor. How many times did he pull the humorous joke on you guys? If he didn't laugh when he said humorous, right?
At one point, I stopped counting.
Right. In the dust.
He does it every time. And since then, I think I met him also last year in Italy. I was assisting at the SFL there. And yeah, it's the same thing all over again, but it's just so great.
Oh, it is. Metallica and humorous. That's
exact. Oh.
Yeah.
Every SFL course we had here in Germany, SFL barbell course, the user courses, we had in Germany, we had Metallica playing in honor of Doc.
Beautiful. I love it. I love it. He's such a good guy. I love it. I did the course with him August of a year or two ago, I think 2 years ago, at our gym here, Existence Athletics in Denver. Great course. And, you know, like you mentioned, I tabled all my barbell stuff. I didn't touch barbells for years. I'm like, all right, I'm going to learn from Doc in this system. And I'm glad I did. I didn't come in with any bad habits, or if I did, I tabled those bad habits and just learned the system correctly. And it was super effective. But, and again, like building a friendship, he'll call me up like, hey, Sean, I'm gonna go camp with my boys. What stove should I get? And I'm like, oh, here's a link for a stove for, you know, go camping. So it's fun. Family. Yeah. Good stuff. Yeah. Okay. So you have the SFG, SFG2, the lifter, SFB as well, right?
Yeah. So 2016 SFG1, 2017 SFL. And then I signed up for the SFG2 in 2018.
Okay.
And I went to Philadelphia for that one.
Philly.
Because I wanted to do at least one of the certifications in the States. And that was, let me think, that was September, I think. Fabio was teaching that one. It was over close to 100 people.
Wow.
So we had 4 or 5 teams, and I don't know how many assistants. It was just crazy. Jeremy Layport was there as well.
Oh, Jeremy, awesome! I did.
He taught the jerk.
Oh, he taught the jerk.
I mean, with his background in Olympic lifting, that was just so.
Mm-hmm.
It was eye-opening in a lot of regards, because you think kettlebells, barbells, just quite a difference. But the way he translated what you do with a barbell to the kettlebell was just phenomenal. Also, the way he was able to explain things, to break them down, that was just, and also very interesting, very dark kind of humor, but I liked that.
Yeah. Yeah, Jeremy, he lived here in Colorado. When I met him, he was at CU, or just had left CU. And then we did our SFB together. Karen Smith was teaching, and he's very strong. He's a beast.
And he commands the room.
Yeah.
It's crazy. When he was teaching, there was nobody talking.
Yeah. Yes.
He gave them one chance to listen, and everybody used that chance because you didn't want to find out what else would happen.
That's
if
awesome.
You didn't listen.
Commands respect for sure. Oh, that's great. So so he was there. Okay. And then can you go over, I have not done the SFG2. What is in the SFG2?
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, it's very different in regards to the SFG1 because most of the lifts, so it's the double press is being taught, but it's not a technique standard. Mm-hmm. So you have the double push press, the double jerk, the double snatch, and then it's the windmill and the bent press.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
So you cover the bottom up drills, you cover a few athletic drills, but those are the main points of the certifications. And I mean, usually it's stuff you don't do with a lot of people you train.
Right. I have like 2 people I do the jerk with.
Exactly. I have probably no one, at least not with double kettlebells. I did the push press with a lot of people by now.
Oh yeah, the push press is
especially during the quarantine, because not everyone has access to a wide range of kettlebells, so the press sometimes is an issue.
Mm-hmm.
But almost everyone was able to do a decent push press, so that is one of the but not double, because then you have the mobility requirements. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that is unique in that way, because in that regard, it's basically just more exercises you do for yourself. Mm-hmm. But then again, you also go over the material from level 1 again.
So you really hone the skill set.
Yeah, now with the perspective that you are already certified. Mm-hmm. So you're not coming as a new person to the skills. You already did your SFG1. You at least probably spent 1 year with the skills. So the expectation is way higher. Mm-hmm. In that regard. And you have to be, as an attendee, very prepared in regards to all-around fitness, mm-hmm. basically, because you have to do the strength test, which is a half body weight kettlebell press for men, so 1 arm press, and I think it's a third body weight press for women. Then you have to do your snatch test. You have to do all the level 1 skills, and you have to do the level 2 skills.
Oh, that's mean. That's
yeah. So there's a lot of ground you have to cover, mm-hmm. especially in regards to mobility, because basically everything you do in level 2 goes overhead.
Yeah.
So you have the push press, the jerk, the snatch, windmill, bent press, all overhead stuff. And especially the double overhead kettlebell skills require a lot of mobility from the shoulder and from the upper body. So you have to really take your time preparing here.
Makes sense.
But it's dense. There's so much information in there. And what I really appreciated was that, sure, level 1 is an instructor course as well, mm-hmm. but you're treated as a new person. When you come to level 2, they expect you to be an instructor already. So what also happens is that the teaching skills are getting more refined here. So the way they break down the exercises, the way they progress you, let's say in the bent press, for example, it's really, really amazing.
That's cool. I'd be very interested in taking that.
Oh, you should.
Yeah,
you will like it.
I do the clean and jerk pretty often myself, and I like to double snatch, and I like the windmill, especially if like mobilizing. Mm-hmm. I need work on the bent press. I need a lot of work on the bent press. I'll practice.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
That is something that you can't rush it, and you also have to work on the requirements, basically. So in regards to mobility, but also in regards to strength. You have to have a good foundation for the bench press, probably more so than for a lot of the other lifts.
Cool. Makes sense. All right. And then you progressed on to the body weight. Did Karen teach that one?
That was the most challenging one. That's why I pushed it to the very last time. Because my ankle mobility is actually quite screwed up.
Oh, really?
So I can't do a body weight squat without my heels leaving the ground. It's just not working. Yeah, it's getting better.
Mm-hmm.
So when I did my level 1, I wasn't sure if I would pass the technique test for the double front squat,
mm-hmm.
but just because I wasn't sure if I could hit depth without having some elevation for my heels.
Yeah.
And then they added the pistol requirement for the SFB.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, okay, that's not a good point. I hope that I would be able to do the SFB before that would happen, but it did not.
Mm-hmm.
So that was quite scary. I can tell you.
Yeah.
The push-up, that just required practice,
mm-hmm.
but the pistol seemed so unapproachable,
mm-hmm.
basically. It's... In the end, it was just a matter of patience.
Sure.
Just working diligently on the ankle mobility day by day, making those small steps. You sometimes don't even recognize yourself.
Sure.
I think that's why it's so hard sometimes for people, because you don't seem to make any progress. But luckily for me, they allowed you to have a counterweight in the pistol squat.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
And with some great tips from Fabio, I was actually able to get that as well. It's not the most beautiful pistol, but it passes the standards. It's safe, so
yeah,
I take it.
Oh, for sure. No, I agree with you. I prefer doing a pistol with a counterbalance weight. It makes it more palatable. Yeah. And to your point, like you mentioned a little bit earlier, the consistency, that 1%, those little steps moving forward, got you to where you need to go. And then to clarify for listeners, it's a 1-arm, 1-leg push-up for men.
Yep, exactly.
It's a lot of tension.
And balance. The balance thing is actually something I completely underestimated, or from a different point of view, overestimated, underestimated, to be honest, because Fabio helped me there quite a lot with creating a training program for the 1-arm push-up. And for 2 months, I basically just practiced 1-arm push-ups and nailed the 1-arm, 1-leg push-up afterwards without any specific practice for that.
Whoa.
That was quite interesting.
That's some willpower there.
That was interesting. Yeah. But the body weight one really was... So we had let me get that right. In March of 2019, we had the very first body weight course in Germany with Pavel Macek. And I wasn't SFB certified at that point, so I took it as a attendee.
Mm-hmm.
And that is really where the puzzle pieces, the missing one, fell into place, because I finally realized the strength as a skill approach.
Mm-hmm.
That it doesn't matter which modality you use, whether it be it a barbell, dumbbells, kettlebells, whatever, but the way you approach the training is what gives you the results you're after.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something. So that was what really made bodyweight training approachable for me, because up until that point, I basically just did a few pull-ups.
Sure. Yeah.
And that was my bodyweight training. Everything else I did with barbells or kettlebells. Mm-hmm. But that course really opened my eyes in that regard.
That's a good point that Sven brings up. When I had coffee with Eric the very first time, he's like, if I were to go through the progression, he would start at the SFB, the body weight, then the kettlebell, then the barbell. And I'm glad it made sense for you too.
Yeah.
That course, I learned a lot about how to irradiate better and how to create tension and I didn't even try to do a pistol squat or 1-arm push-up until the course on purpose. Again, like the barbell, I wanted to table everything, go in there, total white belt, beginner, preschool, whatever, just go in there, thirsty, learn it. And that was a great course. And what's great too, go ahead.
I think a lot of people approach the certifications with with the goal on passing on site.
Yeah.
But sometimes, especially if you didn't have proper instruction before, take the certification, take the teaching, take a lot of notes, and then practice for yourself, because you have a few months later or afterwards to video yourself and pass the certification through that as well.
And I like that approach. That's the approach I went with, because I want to learn and take as much notes and fail in front of the coaches and see what they see, and then practice.
That requires you to be humble, and that is something the hardest thing for most people,
including
me. I always had the expectation of myself to pass on site, but I was lucky enough to have had good coaches before that every single time. I mean, when I was preparing for my level 1, there were 3 instructors all over Germany. There was 1 level 2 instructor.
Wow.
And he was based in the same town I would live in.
Wow.
So that was just
whole country.
It's interesting.
That is fascinating. For context, here in Denver, I'm not even on the sheet. Like, there's like 25 SFGs in our gym. We only have 4 instructors, and all of them are StrongFirst, at least SFG, SFGII, SFL. Yeah. So we're if you're in Denver, please come visit us. It's a great story. And also they did MoveNet too, and which is really fun stuff. Got Erwin's book right up there. And then you mentioned Quick and Dead. Quick and Dead's right there. It's out of focus, but Strong and
you're being mentioned.
Oh, I'm very honored. Page 43 with our friend Matthew Flaherty. I keep mentioning Matthew's name more than anybody else's name on the show because he's just a great guy. And Eric Frohardt. Yeah,
Eric's mentioned a lot as well.
Yes, he is. Well, him and I were spitting together notes. I'd be like, Eric, we done the 033, and what are you doing? Like, what are you enjoying about it? And also, I'm going to be up on top of this mountain if you want to meet up here 11,000 feet later. And so, yeah, getting to share notes with Eric. And then going over to Dr. Craig Mark. I'm like, hey, I've also invited, Craig is amazing. I was fortunate to have 2 great episodes with him, and he actually did
awesome episodes.
Yeah. Please, people, revisit that. In fact, a lot of people I get to train who are intrigued by the mitochondria and the efficiency and how to get better for endurance and anything in the mountains, I refer them to that episode. I'm like, if you want to know why this works, not just from me telling you, but like from a doctor, check this episode out. Yeah. Does a great job explaining it.
Also, like how Pavel explains it in the book in Quick and Dead, it gives you an easy entrance to that topic.
Yeah. Right.
But then if you want to dive deeper, Craig's, the way he explains it, it's just fantastic.
It is. I like that. And I love how Pavel uses his humor, his directness, and it's actionable, right? And everybody,
the way he writes, it is so hilarious.
It is.
I mean, he brings the information across like probably no one else would be possible. But at the same time, the way he writes, there's certain expressions in there. It's just entertaining.
It is. It was a pleasure. I had never met Pavel until November of this year. He came to our studio to present the Strong Endurance, and I was hired to do the camera work and audio video. So if you attended that, I'm sorry if I messed up the Zoom a few times, and I did. Like everything, I failed. I failed at least a dozen times during that, but we got the job done, and it was a great presentation. And Pavel is just so fun and so kind. At every break, he was, "Thank you, Sean." Hand the microphone, charge the microphone. Just professional, kind. Yeah. On day 2, I messed up and the Zoom didn't start correctly. And we were 10 minutes in. I'm like, "Pavel, time out. We got to redo." He's like, "I will not redo that." I was like, "Okay, you are Pavel. You will not redo that. That's fine." Moving on.
That's just the way he is. It's so funny.
It was dry. It was funny. Everybody laughed, and we moved forward. It was great.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah. So
it works.
It works really well. And back to the Quick and the Dead, it works. It's just 2 lifts, and the results speak for themselves. I like I said, wrote a little bit for page 43, and other people have had great success. Derek Toshner's done quite a bit for. Yeah. He did a great job at the Strong Endurance events, explaining what he's done since that book, as far as training, like snatch walking, and a bunch of really cool things that I never crossed my mind. So it was cool to see how I went to the very first Strong Endurance event in 2017, met Greg Cook there, Dr. Chris Frankel from TRX, and like all of our Brett Jones, all of our mentors were there, right? All one room. Is great. But back then it was just It was just the swing and the snatch and the push-up. That's what you did, right? And then I was like, what if you did, jump squats or some other stuff with body weight? And I took notes on that. And it was cool because the revised, I won't give away the course because everybody should definitely take it when it comes out, but it has been updated to include more things than just the swing and snatch and push-up.
I attended it last year in England.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I heard, it was the best until then. I'm not sure. I think he did one more in person before everything got shut down. But what was so amazing was not only the way he explained everything, but also he had people demonstrate the different protocols on day 1 and day 2.
Oh yeah. We had like 22 demonstrations, and there was amazing seeing it happen. And
the different things. It was not just the protocol from the Quick and the Dead. He had Luca Cursa from Canada do one of the pull-up protocols, actually.
Yes.
So there was so many great demonstrations and informations way beyond the normal application of the strong endurance material. It was just amazing. I'm glad you get to witness that too. We had a kickboxer come in and he was doing kicks and then swings and then jumps, right? And then at the same time, another person was doing the pull-up one you're mentioning where it had quite a bit of rest and they progressed. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And she is training for the Iron Maiden and she was like, oh, this is my new training protocol. It was such an eye-opener. And he is the best coach I've ever seen. He's like total sensei, just looks there. No, more weight, just change this, change that. Oh, it's amazing. Right, I have a story for you. So there was something that the getting uncomfortable to learn, putting yourself into new situations. So every time I'm at a certification and they're asking for volunteers, I raise my hand, whether I like it or not. Courage. Yep. So on day 1, he asked for volunteers for a snatch protocol. And I was like, what the hell? Raising my hand. I never thought that he would pick me, but he did. He was like, I think it was the snatch protocol from the Quick and the Dead, but I'm not 100% sure anymore. And he was like, okay, get your snatch bell. You can snatch comfortably for I don't know how many reps. It was quite heavy, actually. So I got a 32. And so we did, I think, 3 rounds, not that much. And he was like, okay, wait. No. Everyone, get a heavier bell. Even Sven, you big sissy, get the 40. In front of everyone. And I was like, okay, you can't say no, so get the 40. That was just, it was funny. So his way of teaching is, he has a probably special kind of humor, but you have to at least do one live event with him, I think. It's just so amazing. It is. His persona from the book comes to life in a beautiful way. Yeah. And it's definitely worth attending and seeing in person. And still, he's so approachable. I mean, during the rest break, the lunch break on day 2, he was like, okay, I'll be sitting in front. Come and ask me questions or go for lunch. Yeah. How cool. So probably, I think, only a handful of people went for lunch. Everyone stayed and asked questions. It was fantastic. Yeah. Well, I would bring a lunch and just stand there and ask questions too. Why wouldn't you? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, he, like you say, he's so personal. And I noticed he enjoyed San Pellegrigio, and I had just got a case of San Pellegrigio. I know he liked lemon, San Pellegrigio lemon. So him and I are like drinking the same drinks throughout half the course. I was like, yeah, I'm drinking the same drink as Pavel. It's great. It's the small things sometimes. Small things goes a long way. That's so cool. This is so fun, Sven. Thank you for explaining like your path, what you've learned, these takeaways. What else have you learned through the course of this last decade of education? I mean, that's a big question, right? That is a big question. What have I learned? I think one of the biggest takeaways for me was when I realized how much there is to training in regards to, enriching your life, basically. I like that. Because at one point, I think there is a point where you realize that what you do goes above and beyond the gym. Yes. it's in different ways, I think. Whether you realize how much training does for you health-wise, or how you mentally got stronger in different situations outside of training. It's just something that I think Brett said that on your episode, where he says the physical is a gateway to the mental.
Oh yeah.
So that it starts, most people start training for physical reasons. They want to look better, they want to get stronger. But there comes that point, I think, where you realize that there is way more to it than you thought at first. And like we said earlier, that's what will keep you training.
Yeah.
That is what will keep you doing your training even on days where you don't feel like it, because you know how much it will actually give you. It's the idea, I think Pavel stated the first time in his very first book, in Part of the People, that the training should give you more than it takes from you.
I love that.
And you can see that from the physical standpoint, but you can also see it from a mental standpoint, basically. So sometimes, yes, it takes some resistance you have to overcome to start training, but in the end, it will just make you appreciate that you trained, and that it shows you that you're able to do the things you don't want to do on days you don't feel like doing them, which is what will give you the results over the long term.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, training for quality of life and strength as a greater purpose.
Exactly.
Yeah, and to empathize with that, the physical training has given me mental strength and courage to handle some pretty big life events. And also, as a teacher, I love when I get the text from a student like, the suitcase carry we've been doing the last 2 months paid off. I was able to carry my groceries with great posture, and I carried more. Or, I'm like, there it is. It just worked in the real world. It's beautiful.
I light up every time when someone tells me how their everyday life just improved through the little things we do in training, because then I know, well, I'm doing my job right. And they also getting to know the real value and benefit of training.
Yep. Oh, it's beautiful. These are good takeaways. I love it. We're going to need to do part 2, because we're just barely scratching the surface here.
I would love to do that. I mean, I can't believe that we're talking for over an hour already.
I know. It's like the first question. I have like 5 more. So we'll definitely have to get back to doing this here in February or earlier.
Anytime.
Thank you very much, Sven. This has been an absolute
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Yeah. Is there, would you like people to come find you on Instagram, or where should people find more about you?
So like you said, you can find StrongFirst Germany on Facebook and on Instagram. And you can find me just by Sven Rieger. So my name, there is no fancy Instagram handle I'm using. I'm not creative in that regard. But feel free to reach out anytime.
Excellent. And
sometimes it might take me a little longer than I would want to come back to you, but I will come back definitely.
He's also in Germany, so give him 8-hour difference from Denver to Germany for one, and also he's very he has a lot of great content, and I love following his stuff. It's very encouraging. It's great. I highly recommend everybody give him a follow, and it'll brighten your day and fill you with good information.
Thank you so much. But the same goes to you and your podcast, man.
I appreciate
seriously, you have people on, and the information they put out, and just the conversation you have with them is absolutely worth listening to.
Thank you. I appreciate it very much. I didn't know what I was doing when I started this. It was basically an excuse for me to put up interviews with like Patagonia that we're already having. And then the people that have come through this year, it blows my mind. The list of people, I'm so grateful for the opportunities. And if anything in 2020, as I've learned, is connection, family, like reaching out. And we're all in the same boat together, and we all want to see everybody succeed, and we all have a lot to share. Just want to help other people. So strength is a greater purpose. Reach out and pull some people up.
And I mean, everybody is bashing social media sometimes about how it's a waste of time, but I think it's how you use it. It's a tool like anything else. And I mean, just be a little bit more selective in how you, in the pages you follow, for example. I mean, sure, there's a lot of things out there for entertainment, but you can also use it just to stay in contact with people you like and admire.
This is true.
There are so many great pages out there. Just use it a little bit differently, and you will see that it can actually make quite a difference in times like that. And it's also a great opportunity to, if you have that worldwide family, to stay in contact with them, and you see them succeeding day by day, and this is giving you the motivation to probably keep going through a tough day as well.
That's very well stated. And like you said, I'm very selective with who I interact with on social media. I only seek out people who I think will enrich my life, or I can do that for them. And also, it's great for me to keep up with my family and friends. And there's a lot of garbage out there, sure. But you can not like it, you can filter it out, you can create your own channel, basically, right? And it doesn't have to be an echo chamber. It can be enriching, and it's easy to only have just certain people you follow, but like I like to have wide discussions with people all across the board and just try and see how they see the world. So
exactly, there's so many interesting approaches out there to basically everything. I mean, you don't have to be the same opinion as everyone you're following, but you can take basically something from everyone who's out there trying to make an honest, to contribute in an honest way. Yeah, I'd say.
I can appreciate that. Yeah, it'd be a pretty boring place if we all agreed on everything.
Oh, that would be so boring.
Yeah, there's no growth for that.
Exactly, that's the point.
Well, I love this.
Sometimes you need your few points of view challenged.
And this is a comical thing. I am married, so I get this daily. It's nice to, I think I've got it all figured out. My head's in the clouds, and then I'm like, I get my other point of view. I'm like, yeah, that makes more sense.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. So it's good.
You have that big complex idea in your head, and someone comes around, well, you could also do it like this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right.
It's nice to have balance, the yin to the yang, if you will.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Well, let's for the other 4 questions or other 5 questions, let's do this again here in a month or two, Sven. This has been an absolute blast. Like you said,
happy to.
Yeah, like you said, it would not be hard to have a conversation. And
no, definitely not.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Enjoy your New Year's Eve. I know it's crazy right now. Yeah, I'm enjoying it. We're going to do a little Zoom with some friends, and all
that's great.
Yeah, we're Zoom right now. It's been a great resource.
Yeah, it works. I mean, a friend of mine celebrated her birthday like that.
Yeah, there you go. It's a great tool. So 2020 has given us a lot of learning opportunities, and thank you for Zoom.
Definitely. It wasn't an easy year, but I think everyone was able to take at least a few lessons from it. I hope so.
Oh, exactly. Like before we push record, I was showing Sven the multi-camera setup I used when I'm doing my online classes, and it's fun. I already have the cameras, and I'm going to do an episode on how to build this setup. It's also the same setup I use to record Pavel, to do strong endurance. So this year has given opportunities to get better presentation skills, not just for fitness. I help lawyers and other professionals build out their communications better. We're all trying to, like you said, help other people get the message out clearly and just bring some joy to this world.
And I think despite everything, there were at least a few beautiful moments in this year.
Absolutely.
And that's what still makes this year worth remembering, I think.
Sure,
we're in the second lockdown here in Germany, and I didn't think that the year would end like that. But still, there were so many great moments in between, or in the beginning of the year. So
it's so true. I'll I'll kind of go this direction as I can. It's so much fun. I received a holiday card from a student, and it was like, good riddance 2020. And I was like, good riddance? I'm like, I had 2 gyms closed in 1 week. I had a lot of things I can complain about, but then you find new ways, right? And you learn. And so every year for Christmas, I make my wife a book of pictures of the things we've done, right?
Oh,
it's a great gift. It lasts forever. It's not a thing you go buy, right? A thing you create. And usually I have like 30 or 40 photographs. This year I had 120. I was like, whoa, we still did a lot of stuff,
There you see.
Even in quarantine, you still could go outside. We did a lot of things. Yeah, a lot to be grateful for in 2020. And then moving forward too, like, my goodness, how much things we have to be grateful for when we get to do stuff in person again. It's going to have a greater appreciation for sure. Well,
and also I think one of the best podcasts was Brett. I think he talked about that on the interview you did with him as well, about his cancer treatment and everything. But there's another one he did with let me get that name right, Mimi Chan, Culture Chat.
Okay.
So basically the whole episode is just about how he managed to go through that time. And if you think you had a bad year, listen to that episode, and then I'd say there are just a handful of people who had a worse year than he had in those few months. So
yeah.
And despite everything, when you look at his Facebook or Instagram posts from that time, you would have not guessed what he went through. It's just crazy. Strength has a greater purpose.
It does. Oh, strength has a greater purpose. That's a great way to end this one. We'll have like 2 or 3 more here very soon.
I'd be happy to do that.
Awesome. All right, Sven. Well, I'll let you get to enjoying your New Year's Eve. And to all you Engearment listeners out there, much love to you and your families. And have a great 2020 celebration. And here comes 2021. Let's make the most of it.
To a strong and healthy new year.
And you as well.